Okay, so I know we are late on this guy, but your man threw his back out earlier this week, and I didn't even know what that term meant. I had heard it a few times, like, people be like, yo, I threw my back out. And I just assumed it was like, I don't know, like a cramp. Like, what does that even mean? But fellas, let me tell you, I know now. I have complete sympathy for those that have actually experienced their back being thrown out. My voice is actually hoarse right now from all the yelling. I've never screamed so much in my life. But with that being said, in the midst of all of this, we found ourselves in a nightfall that is arguably one of the hardest nightfalls as a Grandmaster, and that is the Glassway Strike. Now, we've played some annoying nightfalls, some difficult nightfalls, and normally it's like one or the other. Either they're pretty difficult, as in things can just one-shot you and one-bang you, or it's like bullcrap, like Corrupted, where you suddenly just get booped off the map. This nightfall is like more on the difficult side, as just so many things will wreck you, and they will wreck you so damn fast. So before we get into this, understand, if you have experienced what you're seeing in front of you, that is completely normal. It took us like 3-4 hours before we even got our first completion. And then afterwards, it got a little bit better, but it still wasn't just perfect. Most of your runs are going to be around 30 minutes, if not a tad bit longer. And we actually stayed around that 35 minute mark. So this is not an ideal nightfall to farm, despite it being double rewards. So first up, let's go over some of these modifiers. We've got Arachno. When defeated, Fallen Vandals spawn a web mine at their feet. Something to remember about those web mines, by the way, they do AoE damage. And sometimes the Architects is just like, you know what? That's enough damage to one bang you. Just die. So just keep that in mind. Lots of overload champions, lots of barrier champions. Radar is also disabled. You also got Grandmaster modifiers. We're joining progress disabled, champions mob, locked loadout, etc. And again, champions mob is literally more champions. And I mean a lot more champions. You also get incoming void and aerial damage increase. If your butt gets anywhere off the ground, and I know I like to jump too, but if it gets off the ground, you die, especially in that last and final room. So please, for the love of God, just remember, don't jump. You do have match games, so make sure everyone's rocking different elements to deal with those shields. And something else to remember, considering that this nightfall does normally go past 30 minutes. Like, we could not get it under 30 minutes. You're going to run into a situation where you can no longer revive your teammates. You can have 100 lives built up for that final room, but the moment you get past 30 minutes, the darkness enroaches, and that's it. You can no longer get the revive on teammates, which really sucks. So now that we got the modifiers out of the way, let's talk mods, guys. Let's talk about what was working for us. And I mean, we swapped so many times. Like, I tried everything under the sun, everything from trying to sword down wyverns as well as overload champions. We even tried like ordnance mods with Eyes of Tomorrow and just try to go in there and just rocket everything to death. Just about every strategy you can think of, we gave it a go. Turns out the weapon of choice for this week, though, is Anarchy. Anarchy is your baby. And the reason for that is considering everything can essentially one-bang you. And I mean everything. From the Vandal that's sniping you with its little arc wire rifle, or the Wyvern that's just blasting you just barely with its Void Blast, everything will one-bang you. So the beautiful thing about Anarchy is you can peek shoot. You can literally just peek out, throw a couple of Anarchy shots in on an enemy, and then peek back into cover. That is by far the best weapon for this week. Now, for me, I actually had a scout rifle. Again, my favorite scout rifle is Patron of Lost Causes. It comes with explosive payload, and for overload champions, explosive payload or even time payload are the best perks to use against overloads. It hits them multiple times, and it does like sustained damage, thus proccing that overload round. Remember though, whoever the person is that's stunning overload champs, even if he's stunned, I would suggest to continually keep shooting him with that weapon you stunned him with, as that'll make sure his health won't jump up. Let your teammates worry about doing mega damage to them. Normally they'll just drop like Anarchy shots, or even you can drop an Anarchy shot, but immediately get back to your scout rifle or whatever weapon you're utilizing to stun overload champions, and just keep shooting them. Just keep unloading on them. And again, sometimes I find that if it doesn't stun, reload, and for some reason it'll work again, but just keep shooting them with your primary weapon to continually stun. I was also rocking Trophy Hunter, which is my favorite sniper rifle, as it's in the aggressive frame. It comes with Vorpal. Extremely nice. There's other sniper rifles you can use, but a lot of the things we were using here was just to try to give us more range. And again, for those that don't have a scout rifle with explosive payload, Night Watch is also available to get, and that too comes with explosive payload, and I think overflow. With those things in mind, nothing really deviated for us in terms of our weapon synergy. We use sniper rifles. I use a scout rifle. Les and Bombad use pulse rifles to gun down barrier champions. And again, with barrier champions, try to find you a pulse rifle that has disruption break. It's a beautiful trait, works great for barrier champions, and if you got one with armor piercing rounds, you're going to be doing even more damage to those barriers. Combine those two things together, makes them much easier cleanup for your kinetic weapons. Now, I know we normally jump throughout this Nightfall, but I'm just kind of like showing raw gameplay here of how we're progressing, because positioning in this Nightfall is so very important. Where you position yourself, where teammates are dropping rifts, when you pop your supers, all those things are extremely important. But for the most part, from the start of the Nightfall to the end of the Nightfall, or at least to the boss room, will take you about 15 minutes. It's that final room that can take you anywhere from 15, 20 minutes to an hour. I mean, I've seen people in here for forever, and I know there's cheese spots, but I don't even know how effective the cheese spots are, because a lot of the people I saw that were doing the cheese spots had like an hour or more on their timers. So yeah, I guess you can successfully do it, but will you still get the 100K? I don't know. Now let's talk about subclasses. I am still rocking Ursa Furiosa, as that's still to me just the best panic super in any in-game PvE activity, especially where everything can one-bang you. You will always have your super back. Plus it protects your teammates. It applies weapons of light. Hands down, I think Titans really need to go Ursa. There was a couple runs we did bubble. Just remember, if you do rock bubble, for the love of God, if you're the bubble user, when you pop your bubble, do not get out of that bubble. Like, I know you may think, even with Helm of Saint 14, that you've got enough of an overshield to stay alive. No. And again, if you do get out of the bubble, don't jump. Go to the side. Stay on the ground. Aerial damage here is insane. For our Warlock, we were rocking a Well of Radiance, and for our Hunter, we were actually rocking a Revenant Hunter, just to get the freeze off on enemies. Mainly in that final room is where like Revenant was extremely nice, when Wyverns are like collapsing on you in that little small room. What this would actually do is just freeze them over and over again. Now, in terms of artifact mods, the mods that are really important if you are not rocking certain weapons, like I wasn't really rocking these mods, but I think for the other players that aren't rocking overload weapons, you need to be rocking things like Surge Eater as well as Thermal Overload. The combination of these two will allow you to stun overload champions. I actually really like Stasis Grenades, the Dust-Filled Grenades, as it can continually keep stunning overloads over and over again. I feel like it really locks them in place. And if you're combining that with Surge Eater, you'll get your grenade back instantly. You can actually just keep placing them all around, stunning those overloads that are trying to collapse on you in that final room. And this is an excellent way of dealing with them. Now, the mods for our armor really has not changed here. To me, the most important mods to be utilizing are things like Radiant Light, which allows you to become charged with light as well as your nearby allies when you cast your super. We also rock stacks on stacks so that we can have an extra stack of charge with light. And considering we're taking advantage of things like Anarchy, rocking 2 grenade launcher scavenging perks is extremely beneficial here, on top of high energy fire for that increase in damage, and protective light. Although you don't have to rock protective light, and I actually did a few runs without protective light, and let me just tell you, protective light is good when things can't one bang you. But when things can one bang you, like in this Nightfall, especially in that final room, I felt like I just wasn't able to stay alive. Now, I did go with 2 concussive dampener mods. I'm pretty sure these still stack. Could be wrong here, but considering there's so much like AoE damage in that final room, I felt like this did help me. However, before the final room, you will find yourself in situations where Vandals can kill you in one shot. Shanks can kill you pretty easily. So if you want to rock an arc resistance mod with a sniper damage resistance mod, you should be able to tank those shots. But again, remember, the first 15 minutes of this Nightfall, from the beginning to the boss room, is the easiest part of this Nightfall. You really need to spec your builds to just get you through the final 15-20 minutes of this Nightfall, which is the boss room itself, which is why I felt like just going like 2 concussive dampeners gave me somewhat extra survivability in that final room. But just remember, guys, everything one bangs you in the boss room, so just be extremely careful. Now, one mod that I think you definitely need to rock, especially considering how many shots of Anarchy you're going to be shooting off, is Spoils of of War. I wasn't rocking it. Les was the only one on our team rocking it, but defeating a champion by using a finisher spawns heavy ammo for you and your fire team. Now, this is a really, really good mod, as there's no drawbacks other than it taking up 6 energy in your class item. The main thing is you can spawn heavy ammo for your teammates, and if you're rocking double scavenger mods, boom, pretty much infinite anarchy shots, which you will be expending very greatly. Now, the problem with this mod is as you're actually finishing off a champion, it is a good chance you can be killed, which is why we do suggest whoever the hunter is to rock Assassin's Cowl, as it grants you the perk Vanishing Execution. Essentially, guys, finishers grant you invisibility. It also grants you health regeneration, so it's a win-win. But I highly suggest, guys, because you will run out of heavy ammo real quick. And when that happens, oh boy, you're in trouble, man. And like whoever your warlock is, our Well of Radiance warlock, just use Phoenix Protocol just to have a super on him at all times. So nothing much is really deviated in terms of loadouts from previous Grandmaster Nightfalls outside of someone using Spoils of War. With all that being said, let's talk about this final room, man, because this final room will make you rethink life. This room, let me just break it down for you. Everything is in waves, and you can actually see it there at the bottom left when champions actually will be coming. So first up, the room starts off when you actually enter it. You'll have a single overload champion. Upon killing that overload champion in the other ads is when you'll see at the bottom left, Transcendent Hydra arrives. It'll also say Bellman Transcendent Mine also arrives, Vex Reinforcements inbound, as well as 2 champions. Those are the first 2 champions you'll have to deal with. Now, Bellman is the big Hydra. That's the Transcendent Mine. The boss essentially will sit outside and rotate from side to side, and yes, he will quickly kill you. So I highly advise just don't go in outside, especially on the side that he's on. Now, the Transcendent Hydra can actually come inside. It's a smaller Hydra, and it'll be usually coming in from the middle along with the 2 overload champions that initially spawn. Deal with them in whatever way you want. Normally, we just threw like a couple anarchy shots on them, but we kind of focused the overload champions first and then proceeded to actually do some damage to that Hydra. Now, the thing about the Hydra, the moment you get his health down to about 2/3, it'll say Vex Reinforcements inbound, and then 2 more champions arrive, which is honestly, if you can avoid it, better for you to just deal with the overload champions that are already in there, because you're only dealing with 2. Deal with those first and then proceed to do damage to that Hydra, because if you do damage to the Hydra initially, well, now you're gonna have to deal with 4 overload champions all at once, which is like hell on earth. But upon getting the health of that Hydra to 2/3, it should despawn, and now you just have to deal with the overload champions that are coming in. And I don't know if there's like a method to the madness of where they're gonna come in from, but I do know they are the sneakiest bastards you will ever face. It's like they just plan and coordinate this thing. They got wall hacks. One comes from the middle. You're like, all right, I could probably just deal with this one from the middle in time before the other one shows up. No, that other one will show up and be behind you immediately, completely lubed up and ready to go in on your fire team. So be prepared. You have no radar, so you have no idea where they're going to show up from. I would honestly suggest kind of like dedicate a person to either side, because there's 3 different areas, 3 different entry points where ads can come in at. And if you've got someone watching each side, you'll have a general idea of what to be looking for. But now you're going to deal with these 2 champions. This is why Ursa is just so beneficial here, especially if I got to get a res up or something, or just tank damage for my teammates. Really nice. After this, you got to do some damage to the boss itself. Normally popping a few anarchy shots on him and then dipping back into cover is all right. There's actually a spot there on the left where he shouldn't be able to hit you, but there has been times that I've been hit by him. If you're feeling ballsy enough and you're trying to save a little bit of time, you can go to the opposite side of where the boss is at and maybe pop a few sniper shots. But man, be careful, because if he zones in on you, he will wreck your life. And then all of a sudden you're dead in the middle of all those ads and everything else that are going to be present out there. And the beautiful thing about dealing with all of these Vex is even if you die, they keep shooting your body. So it's not like someone can come res you. They'll just keep blasting you over and over again, which is real cute, Bungie. Thank you. Now, upon getting the main boss health down to about 2/3 as well, it'll say that Belmont Transcendent Mine takes to the void. And then this will proceed to spawn, you guessed it, the Hydra once again, Vex Reinforcements, but this time Wyverns, which I honestly think I may hate more than Overloads. I freaking hate Wyverns. Now, we start off by taking out the one on the left first. Usually throw like a stasis grenade down there, like a dust-filled grenade. Go ahead and freeze them up so that we don't have to deal at least with that one Wyvern. And I believe in this phase, which is like the second phase, you're going to have to deal with four wyverns. By the way, I think I've been mispronouncing it. Is it wyverns or wyverns? Dude, Google's saying it's wyverns. Really? It's not a wyvern? All right, whatever. Wyverns. All right, you got 4 wyverns to deal with, as well as a hydra in the middle. And you got 2 barrier champions outside. And upon dropping the health of this hydra to 1/3, 2 more barrier champions will spawn. This phase, oh my God, it's rough. It's terrible, guys. Many people have failed at this point. I would suggest staying inside, addressing the hydra from wherever they come from. If you can, go ahead and drop that hydra's health down to 1/3 so that he'll despawn. But whoever your Titan is that's rocking Ursa, just be ready to immediately pop your super. Be checking around, looking for those hydras because they will sneak in on you extremely fast. Have anarchy, have everything possible there to stun those hydras. And let me go ahead and just give you a pro tip here. Les was actually using an SMG with anti-barrier rounds, and for some unknown reason, when he would shoot those wyverns, it would actually cause them to be stunned for just a moment. Not like for like a really long time, like stunning a champion, but long enough to at least get the hell away from them. Doesn't seem to work with other weapons, or at least not to my knowledge. Something about SMGs and anti-barrier. There's something really funky going on too, because like anti-barrier rounds on SMGs can like literally push enemies off the map. It does some really crazy flinch that I actually want to test out in PvP to see if it applies there. But inside of PvE, it does something to wyverns to just temporarily stun them, which can allow you to, I don't know, pop a super or escape or something. At least get the hell away from them. So 4 wyverns, that's what you're dealing with. Stay inside, take them out one at a time, hide in a well of radiance, don't jump in the air. Whoever your Ursa Furiosa Titan is, be ready to pop, and if you're lucky, you'll make it past this phase. After you do this, you'll have 4 barrier champions outside to deal with, which surprisingly is not as difficult as everything else you just dealt with. Like honestly, the barrier champions, which can still wreck you and kill you, are so much easier to deal with in comparison to wyverns as well as overload champs. And you can actually use this moment to like top off ammo. Whoever it is that's rocking Spoils of War, go in, drop some heavy ammo for your teammates, and then proceed to retreat inside. Because upon killing the final champion outside, Belmont will be back along with some more Vex reinforcements and overload champions. Now, luckily at this point, the Hydra that normally comes in there doesn't show up. You simply just have to deal with the champions. But upon dealing with these 2 overload champions, you do some more damage to the main boss. And upon getting Belmont to about half health, it'll spawn 2 more champions. Deal with these overload champions, proceed to take cover, hide in that left spot if you need to, and then getting it to 1/3 of its health, Belmont would now retreat back into the void. And this is when all hell breaks loose, guys. At this point, God bless you. You're now gonna have to deal with the Hydra, wyverns, which we normally take out the one on the left side first. The boss is still floating around, and if you can avoid killing that Hydra, then you won't have to deal with champions that will be spawning. But unfortunately, the Hydra normally just gets super aggressive and just decides to just run up in there with you, which means you're gonna be dealing with wyverns as well as barrier champions. And again, remember something about wyverns. They can literally one-bang you inside of a well of radiance. Like, it's quite annoying. And I think they might even be able to one-bang you inside of a bubble, which is why I like peak shooting with anarchy. Stunning them in some sort of way is really the best bet to go. I'm dead right here, as you see. And I was even inside of a well and still got one bang. And what's so sad is it happened at 30 minutes and 3 seconds, which we're past the 30-minute mark. And notice revives are 0. You can no longer revive your teammates. Super cute, Bungie. Thank you. All that work killing champions? Nah, doesn't matter past 30 minutes. But here's the pro tip for the final phase after killing those wyverns. Outside, there will be 4 barrier champions. They will take you forever to kill because you have a boss that's roaming around that can instantly one-bang you. You can kill each one of those barrier champions one at a time, but it's annoying, and by this point, you're probably depleted on ammo. You're probably past that 30-minute mark. Yeah, you get the point. Turns out, and I haven't done it myself, but people were saying Glad was doing it. Considering when you actually kill the boss Hydra, it causes all the other barrier champions to despawn. So simply doing some damage to all 4 champions, like just pop a couple pulse shots in them or scout rifle shots into them, but make sure you put some damage into all 4 of them and then proceed to gun down the boss, will result in you still getting platinum because the game thinks you killed those champions. Again, not confirmed on my part. I haven't done it, but if that's the case, that can easily save you roughly 4 or 5 minutes, maybe even longer. We had no idea about this strat yesterday when we were doing this Nightfall, but that's what I'm being told. I would suggest, maybe just rotate outside, get a couple shots off into each one of the champions, go back inside to that left side, wait for the boss to come over there to the left side, bullseye, lure them over there, and then proceed to just peek out and throw anarchy shots on them, and eventually you'll kill them. That's my suggestion. If that is the case and that's true, and you could still get platinum, that is by far the best way to handle that last phase. Because a lot of times you'll deal with barrier champions, and you're like, crap, well, I'm out of ammo. This will essentially allow you to bypass that. So guys, that is your Nightfall guide for Glassway. I highly advise just doing this Nightfall once. Don't do it any more than once, man. Like, unless you like pain or something, I don't know. I guess you could keep doing it. But for the most part, in terms of this being a good Nightfall to farm, absolutely not. There's much better Nightfalls to farm. Even with this thing having double loot, we will have better Nightfalls in the weeks to come that will be much easier to complete. And they may even still have double loot for those. I would say for now, the only reason to do this Nightfall is probably just to get the Conqueror title again, as well as a sense of accomplishment, because yes, it is an accomplishment to beat the Glassway Strike on Grandmaster. Very, very tough Nightfall. Very challenging. Fun. I like challenging stuff. Really wish rewards matched it other than just like, you know, exotic. So this is the time we really need strike-specific loot back. Those adept weapons for Nightfalls need to definitely be here now, especially considering how tough of a Nightfall this actually is. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.